Wildest female bodybuilding moments ever caught on stage. Forget everything you thought you knew about the limits of the human frame. Before the fame and the flashbulbs, a radical revolution was brewing, one where black women didn't just break the rules. They incinerated the entire guidebook. These aren't just physiques, they are architectural masterpieces of defiance that forced a global industry to tremble. From the unyielding mass of Iris Kyle to the surgical precision of Lenda Murray, we are diving into the raw power that redefined the stage forever. Are you ready to witness the impossible? Subscribe to Black Excellence Legends right now and hit that notification bell. Don't let history be rewritten without you join the elite and witness the standard of greatness. Monnique Jones. When Monnique Jones stepped onto the professional stage, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Standing 5 feet 9 inches with a competitive weight fluctuating between 175 and 180 pounds, she represented a monumental departure from the sleek, high-fashion aesthetics of the early fitness era. Jones didn't just showcase muscles, she displayed an architectural feat of human engineering. Her physique was characterized by an overwhelming sense of structural integrity, where every fiber seemed anchored deep into her frame, creating a visual permanence that commanded the judges' focus. The most electrifying moments of her career often unfolded during the mandatory back poses. While many competitors relied on surface-level conditioning to impress, Jones exhibited a three-dimensional landscape of density. Her lats spread revealed a vast expanse of muscularity that stretched from the nape of her neck to the base of her spine, supported by colossal arm development. This wasn't merely about size. It was about the rare ability to carry immense mass without sacrificing the inherent flow of her silhouette. Her movements were deliberate, characterized by a patient poise that allowed the audience to fully digest the sheer scale of her development. Jones competed during a pivotal transitional phase in women's bodybuilding. The industry was wrestling with its identity, oscillating between rewarding athletic tone and embracing heavy muscularity. In this climate of uncertainty, Jones remained an immovable pillar of the mass monster aesthetic. She refused to downsize or soften her look to chase temporary judging trends. Instead, she doubled down on her identity, refining her conditioning until her physique looked like it had been carved from obsidian. This steadfastness provided a necessary anchor for the sport, proving that a large, complete frame could be both elegant and formidable. As a black woman navigating a sport governed by subjective visual standards, Jones's presence carried a profound weight. She navigated the scrutiny of the extreme label with professional grace, never allowing the noise of critics to derail her mission. Her legacy is defined by this uncompromising insistence on her own physical truth. She didn't just compete for titles. She fought for the legitimacy of the powerhouse physique. Today, she is remembered as a bridge between the legends of the past and the modern giants, a reminder that true excellence is found in the courage to occupy space with absolute authority and zero apologies. Lea McDay. In the high-octane landscape of the late 1980s and early 1990s, Lea McDay emerged as a beacon of poise amidst an increasingly chaotic, competitive field. Standing approximately 5 feet 6 inches, McDay's impact was not predicated on shocking the visual senses with jarring proportions. Instead, she captivated through an almost spiritual commitment to equilibrium. Her physique was a masterclass in distribution, where the lower and upper quadrants existed in a state of perpetual harmony. While other contenders were beginning to push toward an era of unbridled expansion, McDay remained a staunch defender of the sculptural ideal. She viewed the stage not as a place to demonstrate raw survival, but as an auditorium to display the highest form of physical discipline. McDay's stage presence was defined by a haunting stillness that commanded more attention than any theatrical routine could provoke. During her iconic appearances at The Miz, Olympia, her transitions were akin to liquid gold, seamless, fluid, and devoid of the jerky, forced movements that often betray an athlete's fatigue. When she settled into a mandatory pose, she held it with a gravitational authority that forced the judges' eyes to linger. Her quadriceps possessed a sweeping elegance that transitioned into sharp, clean insertions at the knee, while her back development offered a textbook example of muscular clarity. Every muscle group was finished, meaning there were no lagging sectors or blurry lines. It was a total package delivered with the quiet confidence of an artist who knew her work was complete. What made McDay truly wild in a psychological sense was her refusal to participate in the sport's arms race. As the industry started to flirt with the outer limits of feminine muscularity, she doubled down on conditioning and grace. She proved that power didn't need to be loud to be heard. This restraint acted as a vital counterbalance for the division during a time of identity crisis, reminding observers that bodybuilding was at its core a visual art form governed by symmetry. By maintaining this aesthetic, she became a stabilizing force, a reference point for what a healthy, high-functioning, and elite muscular physique should look like. Her legacy as a Black athlete in this era was one of silent trailblazing. McDay didn't rely on slogans to demand respect. She extracted it through undeniable excellence and a level of professionalism that set a benchmark for generations to come. She navigated the competitive circuit with a regal air, proving that one could reach the pinnacle of the sport without sacrificing dignity or artistic vision. Today, McDay is celebrated as the connoisseur's champion, a woman whose physique remains as relevant and inspiring decades later as it was the moment she first stepped under the lights. She taught the world that the boldest statement isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it is the most perfectly balanced one. Vicky Gates. Vicky Gates emerged during a fascinating yet turbulent crossroads in the mid-1980s. While the mainstream media was busy trying to sanitize female bodybuilding into a soft-toned fitness aesthetic, Gates stepped onto the stage as a defiant counter-narrative. Standing 5 feet 4 inches, she brought a level of raw density and granite-like hardness that felt like a seismic shift in the sports landscape. Her presence was an affront to the acceptable limits of the time. She didn't just carry muscle, she wore it like a suit of biological armor. Her physique was defined by a profound thickness, particularly in her upper torso and deltoids, which possessed a roundness that seemed to defy the traditional limits of female physiology. The wildest aspect of Gates's career was her unwavering commitment to conditioning. At a time when judging panels were often inconsistent, sometimes rewarding beauty pageant smiles and other times muscularity, Gates left them no room for ambiguity. When she hit a most muscular pose, the separation in her fibers was so deep it looked etched by a chisel. Her back development was legendary, showcasing a complexity of muscular territories that shifted and coiled with every movement. She didn't rely on flashy choreography or pop music soundtracks to win over the crowd. She relied on the sheer, undeniable reality of her work. Her stage presence was a masterclass in tension. She flexed with such intentionality that the audience could practically feel the effort radiating from her frame. Navigating the competitive circuit as a Black woman in the 80s meant facing a double standard of scrutiny. Gates was often at the center of the how much is too much debate, yet she never retreated into a more commercial look to appease the critics. Instead, she pushed the needle further. She became a reference point for graininess, that rare ultra-lean quality where the skin appears paper-thin over mature muscle. This insistence on hardness helped pave the way for the mass era that would follow, proving that women could achieve elite levels of hypertrophy without losing their competitive legitimacy. She was the bridge between the pioneering 70s and the extreme 90s, serving as a vital link in the evolution of the female powerhouse. Today, looking back at archival footage of Vicky Gates, one is struck by her sheer resilience. She was a woman who stood her ground in a sport that was constantly moving the goalposts. Her legacy isn't just about the trophies she collected or the top-tier finishes at the Miss Olympia. It's about the psychological fortress she built. She taught the world that a woman's body doesn't need to ask permission to be powerful. Gates proved that femininity on the bodybuilding stage isn't defined by softness, but by the disciplined grit and the audacity to be uncompromising. She remains a symbol of the hardcore soul of the sport, a legend who traded comfort for a seat among the immortals. Dayana Cadeau. In the landscape of elite bodybuilding during the late 1990s and early 2000s, Dayana Cadeau stood as a monumental figure whose physique was built on a philosophy of grounded authority. Standing 5 feet 7 inches, Cadeau's impact was immediate and visceral, characterized by a structural density that favored the lower extremities with an intensity rarely witnessed on the professional stage. While many of her peers focused on the aesthetic V taper of the upper body, Cadeau's presence forced a radical shift in perspective. She approached the stage not as a performer seeking validation, but as a sovereign entity whose very stance commanded a recalibration of judging priorities. The wildest hallmark of Cadeau's career was the sheer magnitude of her leg development. Her quadriceps and hamstrings weren't just muscular, they were colossal, possessing a deep, mature thickness that remained granite hard even under the dehydrating heat of the stage lights. When she transitioned between poses, the fluid movement of such immense mass created a visual gravity that pulled the audience's attention toward the floor. In a lineup of world-class athletes, Cadeau often looked like she was carved from a different, heavier element. Her glute hamstring tie-ins provided a level of separation and detail that set a new benchmark for what was possible in the women's division, proving that power could be both extreme and meticulously organized. What defined Cadeau's boldness was her unwavering commitment to her lived-in musculature. She didn't possess the frantic, over-peaked look of someone who had rushed their preparation. Instead, her physique radiated a sense of permanence, the result of years of heavy, disciplined, compound movements. This quality of density over flash allowed her to remain a consistent top-tier threat at the Ms. Olympia for years. She was a stabilizing force in the sport, a competitor who refused to participate in the trend of downsizing for the sake of commercial femininity. Cadeau embraced her Caribbean heritage and her powerful frame with a regal pride, navigating the subjective world of visual judging with a stoic, unshakable confidence. Today, Dayana Cadeau's legacy is viewed as a vital chapter in the evolution of the modern powerhouse. She helped bridge the gap between the refined symmetry of the early 90s and the absolute muscular dominance of the decades that followed. She was a pioneer who taught the industry that a woman's strength should be evaluated from the feet up, making the lower body a central pillar of overall excellence. Cadeau remains a symbol of stability and endurance, a woman who stood her ground, trusted her internal vision, and forced the sport to adjust its lens to capture the full scale of her greatness. Alana Shipp. Alana Shipp's emergence in the professional ranks signaled a formidable departure from the conventional templates of feminine physique. Standing 5 feet 8 inches, she possessed a skeletal frame capable of supporting a degree of muscular density that felt almost architectural. While her contemporaries often focused on the silhouette's verticality, Shipp's impact was rooted in her horizontal expansion and the sheer volume of her lower body development. Her quadriceps were not merely large, they were expansive, featuring a sweep that redefined the boundaries of the stage. This was a physique that didn't just occupy space, it demanded a recalibration of how visual gravity was perceived by the judging panel. The most visceral moments of Shipp's career occurred when she entered the mandatory transitions. Unlike many who use movement to mask imbalances, Shipp's flow revealed a terrifying level of consistency. Her hamstrings carried a thickness that remained visible even in relaxed stances, a feat achieved only through years of grueling heavy-duty resistance training. When she hit a side chest pose, the density of her midsection and the serrated detail of her obliques provided a visual foundation that made her look immovable. There was no soft angle to her build. She presented a 360-degree landscape of hardened tissue that felt like an ultimatum to the sport's evolving standards. Shipp's boldness was best displayed in her refusal to compromise during an era of intense scrutiny. During the mid-2000s, women's bodybuilding faced an existential crisis, with officials frequently signaling for a return to aesthetic softness. Shipp stood as a defiant obstacle to this retreat. She leaned into the extreme, prioritizing grainy conditioning and deep muscular separations. Her presence on stage was a psychological masterclass in authority. She didn't seek the audience's approval through exaggerated smiles or theatrical gestures. Instead, she maintained a stoic, predator-like focus, allowing the silent intensity of her physique to do the talking. Her legacy as a Black woman in the upper echelons of the IFBB is defined by this refusal to be palatable. Shipp navigated the complexities of being an extreme athlete with a regal composure that elevated the division's prestige. She proved that the female form could reach levels of power previously reserved for the imagination, all while maintaining a signature elegance in her posing routines. Today, archival footage of Alana Shipp remains a vital educational tool for aspiring athletes. She is remembered not just for the medals she secured, but for being the woman who stood on the edge of the physical frontier and decided to take one more step forward, forever expanding the definition of human potential. Andrea Shaw. In the historical arc of women's bodybuilding, Andrea Shaw represents the triumphant restoration of a lost kingdom. When she ascended the Olympia stage in 2020, The division had just emerged from a 6-year exile, starving for a champion who could balance the ghosts of the past with the demands of the future. Standing 5 feet 7 inches and competing at a formidable 175 pounds, Shaw didn't just win a title, she provided a manifesto for the modern era. Her physique is characterized by a full-spectrum dominance, a rare combination of immense muscle volume and a rhythmic flow that makes her movements feel orchestrated rather than forced. She is the bridge between the mass monsters of the early 2000s and a new polished aesthetic where density meets artistic clarity. The most profound moments of Shaw's reign are found in her transitions. While many competitors struggle to maintain abdominal control or muscle tension while moving, Shaw possesses a kinetic grace that is almost hypnotic. As she shifts from a front double biceps to a side triceps, every muscle group fires in a synchronized sequence, revealing a map of conditioning that is deep but never gaudy. Her legs are a marvel of modern sports science, boasting a sweep and separation that remain full and pop even under the most exhausting stage lights. She doesn't rely on shock value. She relies on a relentless high-definition consistency that has earned her 5 consecutive Ms. Olympia titles, 2020 to 2024, effectively anchoring the sport's legitimacy in the 21st century. What makes Shaw truly wild in the context of sports history is her psychological stability. She operates with the cold, calculated efficiency of a veteran, yet radiates an approachable charisma that has made her the ultimate ambassador for the IFBB. In an era dominated by social media scrutiny and evolving judging criteria, Shaw has remained the center of gravity. She hasn't chased trends or attempted to radicalize her look. Instead, she has focused on incremental refinement, sharper glute hamstring tie-ins, improved back width, and a more regal posing posture. This steadfastness has reassured promoters and fans alike that women's bodybuilding can be extreme sustainable and aesthetically prestigious all at once. As a Black woman leading the charge in the sport's rebirth, Shaw's visibility is a beacon of cultural excellence. She carries her muscularity with a natural ease, demonstrating that power is not a costume, but a core identity. She has neutralized the too much debate by being exactly enough, a perfect fusion of strength, symmetry, and soul. Today, Andrea Shaw is more than a champion. She is the guardian of the division's future. Her legacy is defined by the fact that she didn't just fill a vacuum left by the sport's absence. She expanded the space, proving that the boldest act a champion can perform is to hold the center with such absolute authority that the world has no choice but to follow. Iris Kyle. Iris Kyle did not just participate in women's bodybuilding. She colonized the very summit of the sport, erecting a monument of muscle that may never be surpassed. Standing 5 feet 7 inches and competing at a terrifyingly dense 175 pounds, Kyle became the most decorated athlete in the history of the IFBB, male or female, by securing an unprecedented 10 Ms. Olympia titles and 7 Ms. International crowns. Her physique represented the final frontier of human development, a landscape of biological expansion so extreme it forced the industry into a decade-long identity crisis. Kyle was the living embodiment of the mass era, delivering a 3-dimensional depth of musculature that made her appear less like an athlete and more like a force of nature carved from dark granite. The most wild moments of Iris Kyle's reign were concentrated in her back presentations. When she performed a rear double biceps pose, the audience didn't just see muscle, they witnessed a geological event. Her back exhibited layers of density that seemed to stack upon one another, rhomboids, traps, and lats coiling in a symphony of hyper-defined detail. Her skin possessed a translucent, paper-thin quality that revealed a labyrinth of vascularity and striations. She brought a level of dryness to the stage that was clinically perfect, ensuring that not a single drop of subcutaneous water blurred the serrated edges of her frame. This wasn't incremental progress. Well, you see Sunday nights. It was a total overrating of what the female form was believed to be capable of sustaining. What made Kyle a truly daring figure was her refusal to retreat in the face of escalating criticism. As her dominance grew, so did the debate over whether the sport had gone too far. Officials and promoters openly wrestled with how to judge a physique that had effectively broken the scale. Kyle's response to the noise was a stoic, relentless pursuit of further refinement. She maintained a predator's focus, arriving year after year, with a package so undeniable that the judges were left with no mathematical choice but to hand her the trophy. She didn't seek to be likable or commercial. She sought to be undeniable. This psychological warfare, her ability to out-discipline an entire industry, is what allowed her to sustain a decade of supremacy. As a Black woman at the pinnacle of a subjective sport, Kyle's legacy is one of uncompromising power. She normalized the extreme, proving that excellence, when pursued to its absolute limit, carries its own inherent prestige. She didn't just win contests. She influenced policy, ultimately contributing to the era that saw the sport pause and reflect on its own boundaries. Today, archival footage of Iris Kyle remains the gold standard for hardcore bodybuilding. She remains the ultimate benchmark, a woman who stood in the center of the storm and forced the world to acknowledge that greatness is not found in moderation, but in the courageous pursuit of the impossible. Lenda Murray. If the history of women's bodybuilding were a cathedral, Lenda Murray would be its high altar. Standing 5 feet 5 inches and weighing approximately 150 to 155 pounds on stage, Murray revolutionized the sport by introducing a standard of total completeness that had never been witnessed. Dominating the Ms. Olympia stage from 1990 to 1995, and then achieving a miraculous comeback in 2002 and 2003, she amassed 8 titles, a record that stood as the ultimate benchmark for years. Murray didn't just win, she curated a physique that reconciled the impossible tension between extreme muscularity and high-fashion elegance. She possessed an X-frame so perfect it appeared mathematically calculated, featuring broad cap-like shoulders, a tiny waist, and sweeping quads that flowed into delicate joints. The most wild aspect of Murray's career was her ability to redefine the sport's identity twice. In the early 90s, she silenced the debate about excess by proving that muscle could be beautiful, symmetrical, and sophisticated. Her stage routines were masterpieces of controlled power. She moved with a rhythmic fluidity that masked the grueling effort required to maintain her conditioning. When she hit a front double biceps pose, her muscle bellies were round and full, displaying a level of separation that was crisp but never jarring. Then, after a long hiatus, her return in the early 2000s shocked the world again. She brought a matured, denser look that proved longevity was the ultimate form of dominance, reclaiming her throne against a much larger generation of competitors. What made Murray truly bold was her silent authority. As a Black woman leading a global sport during a period of intense cultural transition, she carried the weight of representation with regal composure. She didn't rely on theatrical gimmicks or aggressive marketing. She relied on the undeniable perfection of her work. Judges rewarded her because she left no gaps to criticize. Her back was wide and detailed, her legs were powerful yet tapered, and her presentation was flawless. She taught the world that excellence does not need a slogan. By simply standing on stage, Murray forced the judging panels to reward balance and structure over brute force, effectively steering the sport toward a more prestigious future. Today, Lenda Murray's legacy is the blueprint for the ideal female physique. She remains the queen of bodybuilding, a woman who demonstrated that strength is the ultimate expression of grace. Her influence can be seen in every modern champion who strives for proportion and flow. Murray didn't just break the glass ceiling of the sport, she rebuilt the entire house. She is remembered as the athlete who mastered every detail, from the flare of her lats to the poise of her stance, proving that the boldest moments on stage are those that achieve a state of absolute, unassailable harmony. The legacy of these 8 titans transcends mere muscle. It is a testament to the indomitable spirit of Black women who reclaimed the stage as a sanctuary of power. From Lenda Murray's aesthetic perfection to Iris Kyle's unrivaled dominance, these athletes didn't just compete, they forced a global recalibration of beauty and strength. Yet as the sport shifts toward modern standards, a haunting question remains for the community. Did the evolution of bodybuilding represent genuine progress toward inclusivity, or was something raw, authentic, and uncompromising lost when the industry moved away from the mass era these legends defined? At Black Excellence Legends, we want to hear your truth. Was this transition a necessary refinement or a retreat from greatness? Would you like me to draft a provocative community poll to spark this debate among your subscribers?